Hi, welcome to the very first episode of my podcast. I am Elvira Rodrigues, a mortgage expert and real estate investor. In the past 10 years, I've built a diversified portfolio that includes flips, fix, Airbnbs, midterms, and long-term rental properties. Today, we have a portfolio of 18 single-family homes. My goal with this podcast is to share the lessons I have learned along the way and show you that you too can build wealth and passive income through real estate investing. Today, I will be answering some of the most common questions I get about getting started, overcoming challenges, and reaching your goals in this exciting market. So let's dive in. I actually started in real estate back in 1999. Can you imagine? At that time, we didn't have internet or, cell phones or anything like that. We had a Mapsco to go show houses, right? I loved it. I really enjoyed it. And along the years, I just became a real estate mortgage broker because I was, at that time, since there was no online applications or, everything that we have today that is so easy. At that time in 1999, I would have to take all my clients to the bank and then translate for them. And so it was all day translating and helping them to get approved for a loan and then go show houses after that. So that's when I made the change and became a mortgage broker back in 2001. And I started doing mortgage loans. And with that, I started to buy one or two houses and stuff like that. And in 2008, when the market crashed, I actually had just bought like 3 houses that I was fixing to either sell or rent or, fix and flip. And I panicked. And what happened? I actually sold the 3 houses. I didn't lose any money, but I actually could have made a lot of money if I had held those properties. Today, those houses are worth like 3 times of what I paid for. Amazing, right? So real estate is the way to go. So I am so excited to share all this with you. But that's how I really started in investing in real estate. Is I bought my first house and then I bought an investment property, and then I bought some fix and flips. But then, there is something that I learned that, okay, there's a HELOC. What is a HELOC? It's a home equity line of credit that in Texas, you can only do it, or majority of the time, you can only do on your primary home. That's called the traditional HELOC, right? You have to own a house. It has to have equity on it for you to go ahead and pull that equity out and start investing and being your own bank. So 2017, I actually applied for the HELOC. And it was awesome because at that time, I had my first lien, first mortgage, right? And then I got a HELOC as a second lien. And at that time, I remember to this date, I got a HELOC for $103,000. With that $103,000, I bought my first house of $95,000 with that money. So I bought it cash, so I didn't have closing costs or anything, right? And the beauty of a HELOC is that you pull the money out and you buy that property cash, and then everything that you make and that you receive from the rentals and everything, you put back into the HELOC. Why? Well, because you are not going to be paying interest on whatever money you put inside the HELOC. You only pay interest on a HELOC on what's left as a balance. And the more money you put in, the more funds you release again that you can use over and over again. So back in 2017, I bought that first house for $95,000. And with my income, my husband's income, and the rentals that I had, we would put all the money inside the HELOC. And in no time, I think it was 8 months, we released another funds, about 80-some thousand, and we found this other little 2-bedroom, 1-bath house that we bought, cash again. Those two properties are rented to this day to the same tenants. It is an awesome investment. But with that also said, I actually learned something about the HELOC. Well, I could actually have had a higher line of credit if I had paid off my first lien when I got my first HELOC. If I had done that, I would have a line of credit for, $300,000. And I could just use it again because I would not have that payment on the first lien. All the money that I put inside the HELOC becomes your principal, and then you only pay the monthly that is owed on the HELOC, interest only. So that's the way to go. And that's how I started to build my real portfolio of 18 properties. I know what you say. Okay, but I'm so afraid to buy this house, right? I was too on my first investment property. I actually wrote a check for the earnest money, and I panicked, right? I thought, oh my God, is that something that really is going to be okay? And so forth, So, but yes, that's a feeling that everybody's going to have. But one thing is, if you don't take a step towards it, you're never going to do it. If we let our feelings and our, anxiety get in the way, you're not going to accomplish it. And today is so easy to buy or to manage, or, you have internet that you can sell property, you can connect with people, you can learn about this, how to invest. I myself, I have paid many programs, coaching programs and all that to how to invest in real estate. I have paid for tax lien investments. I have paid for, how to build your portfolio, how to do creative financing, how to do so many things. And it is a learning process. You always have to invest in yourself so you can grow and you can build that portfolio and build passive income. The feeling that you have, like you are afraid of, am I going to be able to fix this property and sell it? So am I going to be able to make the payment on it? So one advice I give you is, yes, you have to plan, right? So do you have money to buy it cash? That would be great, right? If you don't have money to buy it cash, then finance, but then you're going to have a monthly payment, right? And are you able to carry that house payment for 3, 4, even 5 months if needed, right? Do you have reserves for that? And that's where the HELOC would be a life-saving, because own experience, 2024 was kind of a iffy year. I invested in some stuff that really didn't go planned as well. But really what saved me was the HELOC, because everything that we gather from all the rentals, from my income, from husband income, every cent we get, we don't live on our checking account or our savings account. We don't even have a savings account right now, because everything that we make, we actually put inside the HELOC to pay down the balance. Why? Because our money is there. It's not going to go anywhere. But once you deposit there towards the principal, what did you just accomplish? You lowered how much you're going to pay monthly on that amount that you owe there. And then the way that I manage that is everything that we make as income, we put towards the principal, the HELOCs. And then when it's time to pay credit cards, mortgage, insurance, any debts, then we pull money out of the HELOC to pay for it. And then you're going to say, it makes no sense because then you're going to pay interest. Yes, but here's the difference. Traditional mortgage, let's say that you have a mortgage that you pay $3,000 a month, right? Every time you make that check to your mortgage company of $3,000, Do you see that money again that you can use the next day? No, because everything that you pay, it goes to that bank, to that mortgage, and even though you are still growing your equity on that house, you don't have 24/7 access to it, right? The HELOC, or the all-in-one loan, which I'll talk about it, it's an awesome program for investors. The HELOC and the all-in-one, everything that you send to the payment on the HELOC, it goes towards principal, lowering what you make and giving you more income that you can use it again and again. So one question that a person always asks me, and a lot of people don't understand, is why would I get a HELOC that has an arm or a fluctuating interest rate? Because the answer is because the rate does not matter, okay? And I can tell you one thing, it's not for everybody, okay? You have to know how to manage finances. So that's another class that we can go over. And if you have any questions, just call me. But it is an amazing product that can help you in any situation. And the HELOC is not just for you to invest in real estate or pay off your house early. It can be for you to pay for college. It can be for you to pay off all your debts, right? Let's say that you have $60,000 debts in credit cards, right? Your monthly payment on those credit cards, you're paying 20 to 27% interest rate. The HELOC is going to have probably what, 8.5%, 9% at this time right now that we're talking. But let's say that you have $60,000 in credit cards and your monthly payment is, skyrocketed on that. But if you have a way to get a HELOC on your house and you pay off all your debts, and now you don't have any more payments on those credit cards, and then you go ahead and everything that you make, you put inside the HELOC, you're going to release that $60,000 in no time that you can invest in something else. Perhaps start your own portfolio on single-family homes. I particularly have only single-family homes. I did have apartments and townhome. But one thing that I discovered in apartment singles, right, not multifamily, but I had units. I had 2 apartments and 2 townhomes. And the difference that I see in between houses and apartments or townhome is that the tenants that you put in there, they are going to stay much, much longer on a single-family home than on apartments. Apartments, my tenants would, change every year. And that's not very good because every time somebody moves out, you have expenses that you're going to, have to freshen up paint, change a carpet, or change whatever, right? Fix something. And on the houses, it's different. If they are there for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, I have people in my house that they have been there for 8 years, right? So you're not actually updating that property every year. And, they are paying your mortgage. They are, perhaps you even have cash flow on that. But, and of course, you still have, expenses. Maybe an AC, hey, call me, AC is not working. And you will have some expenses like that. But it's worth. Why? Because everything that you spend on those houses, you can actually deduct on your income tax. And did you know also that the tax benefit of having your own house or investment properties is that you can actually deduct all the interest you'll pay, insurance, even mortgage insurance, and also any repairs that you make on the houses. So it is a bonus, right? Because if you are self-employed and you're paying an arm and a leg to IRS, you actually can lower your expenses to IRS by getting deductions on those investment properties. To pay off your house fast, the best way is for you to have a HELOC. I have a lot of people that say, hey, I'm already sending extra money to to pay off my house faster. And I can actually give you a tip, right? So if you send one extra payment per year, every year towards your principal on your house, you will pay off your house in 23 years and a half. But listen to this. If you send 2 extra monthly payments per year every year, you pay off your 30-year loan in 15 years, right? But yeah, you are paying extra, but you're not releasing that funds that you can use 24/7. So if you don't have a HELOC, you can still pay off your house earlier, but it's just that for you to have access to your equity, you're either going to have to sell the property or do a cash out refinance. But if you get a HELOC or an all-in-one loan and it becomes a line of credit, everything that you make, you can actually pay off your house in 5 to 7 years. And sometimes even earlier. And here's an invitation. Call me. I can send you a Zoom link and I can show you on the computer, on the screen, how fast you can pay off your house just using the same income that you make right now. And each case is different, so the best way is for us to get on a Zoom call so I can do the simulator based on what you make, how much you owe on the house, and that's going to tell you how fast you're going to pay off that house. Listen, I actually had realtors and clients that I did that simulator, and they would pay off their house within 3 years. Unbelievable, right? They couldn't believe either, but they did it, and they actually now invest in real estate with the HELOC like I taught them how to do it. On the fix and flips, if you want to invest in fix and flips, right? You have to make sure that what you're buying the house for is in a good price, because you're going to have to calculate how much you're going to spend to buy that property, how much you're going to spend to fix that property, and then how much you're going to spend to sell that property. So 3 things that you have to have, like the numbers correctly to make it work. So let's just say an example, okay? You buy a house for $300,000, okay? The house is worth probably, I don't know, $400,000? It's probably not going to be enough, I don't know. But you can calculate that. It depends on what the property needs, right? Like on my first flip, actually it was not the first. It was like the second or third. I bought a house a long time ago for $105,000. I bought it cash with the HELOC. And then I fixed it, but it didn't have a lot of fixing to do. It did have foundation, which didn't cost much. It was like, I remember to this day, it was about $6,700. And then we had to replace the carpet. So let's say we spent about $10,000 to fix that, right? So I paid $105,000, spent $10,000, so that's $115,000, right? And then I sold that property within a month, and I had to pay the 6% commission and so forth. So end of the day, my net profit on that property was $21,000. I'm not saying that that's going to be every time the case, and has some property that you can even make more than that. But also, it's not all the properties that you buy and sell it in the first month. It depends on what needs to be done. If you buy a property that needs a lot of repairs, like foundation, roof, and AC, appliance, or you're going to remodel the whole kitchen, the whole bathroom, and all that, probably you're going to hold that property for 3 to 6 months, depending on how the market is for you to resell the property. So you actually have to take into consideration how much it's going to cost to hold that house for 3, 4, 5, 6 months if you have a loan on that property, right? Because if you're going to buy a property cash, that's okay. You have your own cash, you bought it, so you don't have monthly payment. That's a relief, right? If you have a HELOC, you can buy that property so you don't have closing costs, right? Because you're not financing. So you're buying with cash from the HELOC, then you only have the HELOC monthly payment, but that's okay. It's not as big because it's only interest only. And if you need to buy a house and you don't have all the cash, you need to put 10, 20% down, then the house has foundation problem, then you're going to have to get a hard money lending or a private money loan, okay? So you can buy that property, you're going to pay higher on that interest rate and points to start, but also you have interest-only payments for whatever time you're holding, okay? But so that's why you need to calculate how much are the repairs that needs to be done to bring the house up to value, the ARV after repair value, to see how much you're going to make. I do have a spreadsheet that we can use, that you can analyze a deal, okay? So if you have more questions about that, please feel free to call me. You have to be careful whenever you buying a fix and flip, because if you wanted to do too much, then your profit is going to evaporate, right? So you need really to do a good job in fixing it, right, to flip. But also you have to be careful not to get carried away and spend a bunch of money that in reality was not needed to do it, right? So I did have properties, my first 2 properties, fix and flips. I actually spent a lot of money on it. Ended up not losing money, but I could have done much, much better on it if I had just done the basics, nice, clean and everything, and done well, but not spend more than what I needed to spend on it. I actually recently, about a couple of years ago, that I started on Airbnb. I have majority of my properties are long-term properties, which means 12 months plus, right? And it's easier to manage because you don't have to be upkeeping it, right? Or unless something breaks and you have to send somebody there to fix. But that's called a long-term rental. Then, about a couple of years ago, I decided, okay, I'm going to give it a try to Airbnb. But Airbnb has 2 things, right? Either you do short-term rental, which you do have to check with the guidelines of the city, the county, or the HOA to make sure that they allow that. And some cities will allow 30 days plus. 30 days plus, which means the minimum days to rent on that house is 30 days. So that's called the midterm. So I have right now 3 midterm rentals. And I started a couple years ago. And yes, you can make you can make more on midterm. You do have some extra expenses that you will have starting on it because you have to buy the property, or if you already have one, then you put it together. You complete your remodel or painting, updating everything, but you also have to furnish that property, right? So you have to account for furnishing, for all the appliances, make sure that I have Wi-Fi and I have Roku enabled, and also I do all the maintenance of the yards, right? So, but the first thing you have to do before you even buy that property that you want to put on Airbnb or midterm, you have actually to do an AirDNA check to see how much that property is going to produce on Airbnb. Because if you buy a property and you can rent it for $2,700 or $2,500, but when you look on Airbnb, it gives you an annual income of $60. So then you just doubled your rental, right? Because 60 divided by 12 is $5,000 a month, right? So usually I look to make sure that the property is going to give me more income than the long-term income, the long-term rental, okay? So, but it is, I particularly have 6 more houses on my portfolio that I want to turn it into Airbnbs, because I could double the income on that and have a better cash flow. Because I have some properties that are paid off, but I still have properties that has a mortgage. creative finance is ways that you look to invest in real estate, right? So there are several ways. One of them is seller financing. Let's say that you see a house and you talk to the seller, and the seller is actually willing to finance that property instead of you going through the bank, right? That's one. Then we have subject to, which means a seller has a house, they have a mortgage on it, they need to move out of the house, and then they cannot sell it for some reason, but they are willing to let you assume their loan. So that's subject to. Then you also have, use other people's money. You can actually also get a private money lender. I actually was a private money lender in some investments properties, and that is a very, it's good, could give you a good return, but you have a very, very high risk on it. So you really would have to lend it and be prepared that if that borrower doesn't pay you, that you have a way to get that house back, and then, foreclose. You're going to have to spend money on foreclosing. You don't know if it needs to be fixed or not. So, but that's one of the ways that you can get money. Is also get from a private money lender. Usually, they will charge you a very high interest rate on that, 15% or more. And then, of course, you can finance yourself. Put 15 on a regular Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. If you qualify for a home loan, I can help you with that. You can put 15% down and buy that property financed on regular financing. Otherwise, we have so many other programs that we can do for you to buy your investment property. One of them being the DSCR loan, and I have a reel about that, a video that you can learn. But the DSCR loan, actually, you can buy a house, put 20% down, minimum 20% down, but we don't use income, we don't use employment. You do have to have reserves, 20% down, and the house has to be able to pay for itself. So let's say you buy a house and the monthly payment on that house is going to be $2,500. So we are going to order a 1007 addendum from the appraiser that they are going to do a report and show that that house can be rented long-term for $2,500. Okay? We can also do loans with bank statement, 12 months bank statements. Or we can do loans using only 1 year income tax. Or we can do a loan also using just a profit and loss statement. So there are several programs that we can do a loan for you to invest in real estate. One thing that I have done actually this past year is I taught some realtors and homeowners how to get a HELOC on their house, okay? Because they didn't have money to put as a down payment on an investment property, but they did have equity on their house. So we did a HELOC. They got the money from the HELOC, put as a down payment on a house, and then we financed the rest of it on a regular financing or DSCR or bank statement. And that's one of the things that you can do when you have a HELOC. Actually, every time, the reason why I grew my portfolio so fast, and I already paid off 5 houses as well, is because every time I would free up $60,000 to $80,000 on my HELOC, I would get that money, put as a down payment on another house, finance the rest, rent it. Somebody's paying for that mortgage, but all the rental on that property is coming inside the HELOC again, freeing up more money. So I would do several ways. I had a year that I bought like 2 houses, 3 houses in the same year because I would release more funds to put as a down payment on another house. Okay, and of course it now frees up much more because with 18 houses you have much more income coming in that you can deposit the funds, free up the money, and use it again. And I even bought a house cash. My first Airbnb, I actually bought it cash from the HELOC, right? Then I refinanced later took the money out to buy another property. But that's how you can actually manage and grow your portfolio fast with the HELOCs or the all-in-one loan. Yeah, that is another investment type that you can go after. It's to buy tax liens, tax deeds, or foreclosures at auctions, right? I actually have done a whole study on that as well, and I have purchased tax lien lots in Florida. I actually have them for sale right now as well. But there is a difference between tax deed, tax lien, and foreclosure. Usually a tax lien, and of course it changes from state to state. The tax lien is when the property goes to auction because the seller or the owner did not pay property taxes. You know that there are 3 things that takes your property to foreclosure. Believe it or not, tax lien on the property, it's the primary. It's primary over the mortgage and over anything else. So that's the tax lien. If you buy a property on a tax lien auction, there is a period of redemption. It could be 6 months. It could be 2 years. It depends. So let's say you buy a property today because the seller owes $30,000 in tax lien, and they have a mortgage for $150,000 still on it. Just an example. But you bought that property for $30,000, right? So you paid the tax lien $30,000. The seller has anywhere from 6 months to 2 years. In Texas, it used to be 2 years, but I think they changed it now to 6 months. But it meant that in the first year, you paid $30,000, but in the first year, if the seller comes and redeems the property from you, they would have to pay you your $30,000 plus 25% of your money. If they didn't come on the first year, but they came on the second year, then actually they would have to pay you the $30,000 plus 50%. That's a great deal, isn't it? The only thing is you're going to have that property for 2 years, okay? So that you cannot touch if that was the case, right? Depending on the state. That's a tax lien. But the beauty of the tax lien, if they don't come to redeem that property, any mortgage against that property is wiped out. That's why it's not easy to buy, tax lien in Texas. Actually, it doesn't have too many. Florida has a bunch, okay, and some other states, but in Texas, it's harder to compete to get that property on a tax lien. Then there is a tax deed. So tax deed is whenever the property was on tax lien, it didn't sell, the county, it went back to the county, nobody paid, then they will sell it on a tax deed. You can buy on a tax deed, and then you don't have the redemption period. You buy and the property is yours. It does not wipe out anything else, okay? And then the third one is auction on the foreclosure because of mortgage payment, okay? If they don't make your mortgage payment, then they can go to foreclosure. And then for you to buy a foreclosure on an auction, you're going to have to buy cash. There is no way to finance that property, okay? You're going to have to pay cash. Usually the auction could be online or in person at the steps of the courthouse. But you usually in the morning, by afternoon, you have to have the money there, cash, to pay for them. The thing is, you're going to have to do your own due diligence to search for title, pay for title search, make sure that there are no other liens against it, right? Because if you buy on a foreclosure, you're going to inherit any other liens against the property, okay? And believe it or not, did you know that if you buy a property on an auction because the HOA foreclosed on it, did you know that you can actually buy a house for $200 or even $1,000, whatever it is, on the HOA auction? Because if you don't pay your HOA, they have the right to foreclose on you. What is the biggest problem? You inherit everything else. Any debts that they have, it's yours too. Okay? But that's how it is, another way of investing in real estate. And that's a wrap on our very first episode. I'm so excited. I hope the answers to today's questions have given you clarity on how to take your very first step and avoid some common mistakes in real estate investing. I am so excited for what's ahead and cannot wait to share more stories, tips, and strategies with you in the upcoming episodes. If you enjoyed this, please share it with someone who's also looking to turn real estate into a source of wealth and security. Until next time, remember, the first step is believing that you can do it.